when I first started, I was like, am I good enough to do this? So I decided to start by going into competitions. I think the very first one I did was there's this graphic novel that I liked, and my friend told me like, hey, they're doing a competition. You know, you create a short film out of this graphic novel. Like the rules were you can't change the script, but you can kind of change little things, but not the actual like story or whatever. So I had like difficulty trying to create, you know, like directly what the script was or what the graphic novel was. Because I wanted to change things because some of the stuff seemed a little cheesy. And then when it came out at the end, I was like, yeah, that's kind of cheesy. But I was able to like, you know, kind of learn how to direct, how to frame stuff, how to visualize it, and I got kind of like bring it to life. And that's what I enjoyed. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Film Goals Podcast. Today, Gene is back on the show, but this time he's going to be asking me questions. So, yeah, I guess I'll just hand it out over to Gene. And
So we talked about this, and I don't know if we really touched on it when I was on, but we work together, and Angel works, and we both work at Fox 5, the Fox affiliate here in Las Vegas, and Angel for 2 years, you were the promo producer?
yeah,
He got promoted to promotions after you were
that's too much information.
editing. Well, no, but I mean that's about you, right? You were editing, and then
guess.
you got promoted to
Yeah.
promotions, and
Yeah.
and I had met you because you'd been there 5 years. You have been there 5 years. I've been there 4, and I always saw Angel in the hallways when I first started, and we didn't really talk to each other until you joined the promotions team, and so we worked a little more closely together, and then recently, within the last couple of weeks, you were promoted to commercial producer, and that's my area. So I'm the commercial producer there. Well, my title is commercial production supervisor, although I'm not really a manager of Angel. Angel and I are both coworkers, and I'm just a little more seasoned than he is. So congratulations, Angel, on becoming a commercial producer. It's a long time coming, especially for me, because I've been doing it by myself. And then we're driving on a shoot one day, and I started asking Angel some questions about himself, and it dawned on me, you know, does he really talk about himself on his own podcast? Not really. Just maybe splash here and there if you really go back. You have to go back through all the episodes and try to compile it all together. But I figured, you know, this might be a good venue to, you know, ask you questions and find out where you come from. Mm-hmm. So let's start with that. Where were you born?
Oh, damn, you're starting way back. Okay.
Yeah.
I was born in Guatemala.
Born in Guatemala, and you moved to Las Vegas when?
So I moved to LA first, and then I moved to Vegas, like middle school.
Middle school. Yeah. Okay. And then how did you get into, or what made you want to get into film?
Yeah, because this is gonna be the long answer. So a long answer for a long question. So I always loved movies. I always liked watching movies, and that was kind of like that's how I learned English when I first moved to the States, by watching TV and watching movies. And I love TV shows. Kind of grew up, you know, in front of the TV type of thing. You're either outside playing or you're watching TV, just because your parents are not home. And we always loved movies. And I think when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an actor. I loved like comedy movies, like the Adam Sandler movies and stuff like that. Yeah. And as you got older, you know, like your parents are kind of like, or at least my parents were like, you know, find something that's gonna make you money, that, you know, you're gonna be able to like survive, and, you know, like acting was just kind of like a dream, like, you know, that's not gonna happen. So it kind of like went away. And then as I got older, I always liked. We had like collections of DVDs, and we would watch DVDs all the time. And then, you know, the DVDs had like the behind the scenes on them. So that's how I kind of started learning about film stuff, like outside of just watching a movie. And I don't know, I just loved it, but it was never something that I thought that I could do until I got older and I went to college. I did digital media, which was kind of like a bunch of different things. It was editing, it was graphics, it was like visual, it was all visual media, but it wasn't really the film. So that's kind of how I started with like editing. That was like the first thing that I learned in production. I wanted to get into like animation because I was like, well, you know, I don't think I can be a filmmaker because I don't know anybody in Hollywood. You know, I'm like this hood kid from poor kid from the hood, like, I don't know. So I thought, oh, maybe I can do like Pixar, because I had watched the Pixar documentary, and I was like, oh, these people are just, I know how to draw a little bit. They know how to draw, and then once they put it on the computer, you're just on the computer, So I was like, okay, maybe I can do animation. And then I tried to look for schools at the time. Like, I wanted to go to college like outside of Vegas. I was ready to move out of Vegas. And I think I looked in like Florida or something, and then I saw the cost, and I was like, oh, I can't afford that. So then I decided to go to UNR, and that's when I learned digital media. And after I graduated, my first gig was doing like a production assistant or like an editor for an up and coming studio. It was like a startup, and that's where I like met my friends that I work with now. And that's where I started to learn actual like filmmaking stuff.
That was here in Las Vegas?
I was here in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. So I moved back to Vegas after I graduated from UNR, from Reno. And then they were all in film school. So I was seeing what they were doing. They were like doing short films, and they were, kind of like writing scripts and trying to do all that stuff. And I was like, what? I was like, I could do that. Like, I've been wanting to do that. Like, I love movies, So then I kind of taught myself how to screenplay. I read a bunch of books, like all the books the popular ones that you would find. We had some books at the studio that we worked at, and I read some of those and just kind of learned how to screenplay, how to write. And then we had, at the time, we had like cinema cameras in the studio. So we had some Sonys, and we had a Red. So the person that was kind of in charge of the studio, he would like teach us or show us the cameras. And that's how I started to learn, the stuff about cameras, how to light. We did a lot of green screen stuff. So I learned a lot of like how to light green screen and all that. So that's kind of how I got into production.
Wow.
So long ass answer.
Well, not as long as my 20-minute answer from my episode.
Yeah.
But so at what point did you start working in television soon after, or when did that come into?
Yeah. So the studio that I worked at was supposed to be the startup that was going to end up being a stock footage hub or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to focus on like green screen or something. And then I think the guy ran out of money. So then he kind of shut that studio down. So after that, I was just looking for stuff that I could do. It was really kind of like survival, like, oh shit, I got to get a job. And I got into TV, into news. I was like, I applied for a couple different stations, and then I started editing for news.
And so which station did you work at first?
First, I worked at Channel 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Channel 3, the NBC affiliate here in Las
Yeah.
Vegas. And so what year was that when you started?
Oh shit, I don't remember. I want to say 2016.
2016.
Because I was there for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I started at Fox 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So you worked in a studio that shut down, then you got into television, and so what did you just edited at Channel 3? What did you do there?
Just editing.
Just editing.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Fox 5.
Just editing.
Just editing.
But I was always working on stuff outside.
Right.
The outside stuff was always the stuff that I, what my passion stuff. The short films, the music videos, photography. I did some photography. Like all that stuff was like, a job was just like a job for me. And then outside stuff was all the creative stuff that I got to do.
So right after you graduated, had you done outside stuff up to that point, or?
I did projects. Like I took some photography classes in college, and then I did like the projects for school. But it was funny because like the school that I went, like UNR, the art department of the school was like, is run by like a guy that was like an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna show you guys how to use Photoshop, how to use Premiere. It was like, oh, go create art, and these are like the different softwares that you could use. Go watch some YouTube and then create art. So it was all about like art. And this guy like, he'd been in galleries in San Francisco and stuff like that. So he was one of like those hippies. So like it was, like I learned how to be creative, but I didn't really learn like the craft. I didn't learn Premiere. I had to learn that shit on my own.
Yeah.
Like Premiere, After Effects, and like Photoshop. I learned all that on my own pretty much.
Wow.
While I was in school. So I paid all that money to learn that shit myself, which pissed me off.
Well, but and that's interesting because I didn't really. I mean, I had some sort of training on nonlinear stuff because I've gone from way back to tape editing, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you kind of learn on your own, and it's not like you have to, but it'd be nice if you had some guidance. But yeah, it's one of those things that I kind of was guided a little bit, but then bam, you have to learn it really on your own,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to improve, that's for sure. So then, after you graduated and you started, you doing that stuff with the studio. Did you do projects while you were at the studio as well?
Yeah, so the first project we did was me and my friends that worked together. My friend Juan came up with the idea to do a web series based on the stuff that we got into at the studio, because we would get into there was a lot of characters that would come in and out, and it was just like, these guys are funny. So he's like, we should start a web series, and it was kind of like The Office,
Yeah.
and it's called the Studio Web Series. And that was like the first project that I like wrote like 3 or 4 scripts. We actually came out with ideas for like 20 stories, like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
And we wrote 10 episodes and directed 10 episodes. And that was like the first thing that I like wrote, directed, edited.
So do they live out there on the interwebs?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
The web series on YouTube.
That's cool.
So we did the first season all together. We were there, and then the studio got shut down. We didn't have anywhere to shoot. But I was like, I want to finish the story. Like, I want to have an ending to the studio. So I wrote 5 episodes and did like studio season 2. And it was just 5 episodes that, we kind of see where everyone's at after everyone gets like fired. And it's like a comedy, and it's like you're just following these people around. So I did that. And then everyone now is kind of like, the people that we know are always like, you should make another season. You should make another one. So we've been talking about, eventually doing another, like a 3rd season of the web series.
Yeah, so you're still kind of working with your friends.
Yeah, we're still together. Some of them are like in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
They moved on. But yeah, like 2 or 3 of my friends are still here.
Yeah.
And my friend Bryle, he's the one who I work with a lot. Yeah.
And so then after that, you started getting into some other projects, some music videos as well.
Yeah, so music videos, it was just I just ended up meeting some artists, and I can't remember the first music video. I think it was What Would You Do? My friend Titus Rose, that was the first one. I met him through another friend, and he was going to be the director, and he asked me to be the cinematographer and help him like shoot it. So that was like the first music video that I did, and it was fun. It was like, it was easier than doing a whole film, because there's no like, you don't have to worry about sound and stuff like that. You're just being creative with the visuals and kind of trying to tell a story with the song. So that's how I got into music videos, and then from there I just kept collabing with my friend Titus Rhodes, and then I met a few other artists that I shot music videos for.
Wow. About how many music videos have you done?
Oh shit, I don't know.
You weren't prepared for these
I was not
questions.
prepared at all.
But that's okay.
I don't like talking about myself. I think like, I want to say at least 7 or 8. Something like that. Yeah.
And you can find them on YouTube?
Yeah. So my YouTube has like a section here where it says music videos. And that's just like all the artists. I'll just share it on a playlist.
So that would be here on this channel, the one that you're watching. So
yeah, you should be watching on here.
And then as far as like other like short films, you've done a few of those as well.
The first short film I ever did, which I don't count as my short film, because I don't know, when I first started, I was like, am I good enough to do this? So I decided to start by going into competitions. So I think the very first one I did was, there's this graphic novel that I liked, and my friend told me like, hey, they're doing a competition, you create a short film out of this graphic novel. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out, see if I can actually do it. And it was like, the rules were, you can't change the script, but you can kind of change little things, but not the actual like story or whatever. So I had like difficulty trying to create, like directly what the script was or what the graphic novel was. Because I wanted to change things, because some of the stuff seemed a little cheesy. And then when it came out at the end, I was like, yeah, that's kind of cheesy. But the first one, it was called Being a Father. It was about this guy that's trying to reconnect with his daughter. But the wife doesn't want him to be in her life. And then, spoiler alert, she decides to kill him for the insurance money. So I recreated that short out of that graphic novel, and I put it into the competition. That was just like my first, like, okay, I completed something. And I did like I did auditions for it. I got a whole crew together. I got a location. That was like the first time, like, well, after the studio, because the studio, we had to do that too, but we mostly shot it in the studio. We didn't go to other locations. But for this, I had to find like a house. I had to find the crew, and it was the same crew. It's my same friends that helped me out. And yeah, that was like my very first short, and it was not that good, but
Well, we
yeah.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere. And then my second short was like a 1 minute short film for another competition. It was like another YouTube channel that was having a competition, and it was just like, how do you tell a story in 1 minute? And it's about this guy. He's in the desert and he's looking for water, and he's like hallucinating and kind of kills himself at the end. So, but I was able to like kind of learn how to direct, how to frame stuff, how to visualize it, and got kind of like bring it to life, and that's what I enjoyed. So that's how I started with short films, and those two are kind of like, I don't really count them because I was just kind of like playing around. But then my very first one was Dinner for One, and actually the very first thing that I wrote was Feliz Navidad, and that's like a zombie film comedy Christmas movie that I wanted to shoot, and that was gonna be my very first short film, and then COVID happened, and then it was a huge cast, and it was gonna be in my friend's house. He offered his house, one of the main actors, and I was like, oh shit! Like everyone's saying that you can't be around people, and it was gonna be like if the cast was like 10 people, there was gonna be a crew of like 10 more.
Yeah.
So it was gonna be a huge, So I was like, okay, we gotta cancel it. So I canceled Feliz Navidad, and during COVID, I wrote Dinner for One, and that was like the first one that I like. I feel like, okay, that's my first as a director. Like I wrote it, I directed it and stuff.
Yeah, very cool. And so, how many have you done since then?
Since then I did Dinner for One, which that one was cool. I did Breathe. Those two short films are on my YouTube channel, and then 14 Days, the anthology. That's like my newest project. I shot 2 short films for that.
And that was featured at the 49-hour film festival.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've been involved with 48-hour film festival as well.
Yeah.
As an actor.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right, let me talk about being an actor. Okay. So yeah, I did. So for the 48,
I like how you set it up. By the way, let me talk about being an actor.
So yeah, for the 48, the very first one, I kind of like my friend was like convinced me to do it. I didn't really want to do it because I was like in 2 hours, like in 2 days, it's gonna be hard. There's gonna be a lot of work. But I told him, I was like, I'll help you with what I can, and I'll be an actor. I was like, I don't want to be, holding the camera and doing all this. And yeah, that one was really fun because like it was our first time all kind of doing it, and we met a bunch of people that we ended up collaborating with later on, and it was a good way to like meet more people in the film community. And it was like we got comedy, and it was just fun to shoot. Yeah, I just hated seeing myself at the end because like I kind of went like my character was this cowboy, like cocky guy. So I went all loud. I kind of like shaved my facial hair all weird, and like I took my glasses off. I had a hat on. It was. You
were in a boxing ring too, right?
Yeah. So it was. So the short film is about rock and paper scissors competition, and it's this like documentary about these 2 guys that are head to head, like they're like competing to be the best rock paper scissors, and it's called Bear Ninja Cowboy. And yeah, we ended up getting the location at a gym. It was my friend's. He trained there, and we shot in the gym, we shot in a park, we shot in a house. And it was like our first time doing it, and we're going to 3 locations. It's gonna take we only have 2 days. It's gonna take a long time. And I remember like the cinematographer Joel, he was editing, and we had an editor, so he kind of was finishing the edit. And I think they were driving to drop off, because at the time you had to drop off your film in person.
Oh, that's right.
So he was driving and editing, or someone was driving. He was in the back editing as they're going to drop off the film. So I think like we made it like right on time, and we ended up being nominated for like 9 awards, and we won Best Writing.
That's awesome. And there was a wardrobe thing, right? Wasn't there like a shirt that you were given and it wasn't the right size?
Oh yeah, they gave me like a tiny shirt, so I had a button only one button. And I was like, can we go get another shirt? And I think the girl was like, no, that's fine. I was like, all right. So I had like this tiny shirt, and I was like, yeah, well, whatever.
And the anthology that was featured at the 49-hour film festival, that wasn't part of the festival. It was more showcased, right? So it wasn't done in 49 hours.
No, that was done in 2 years.
Okay.
So yeah. So to talk about the 14 Days anthology, it was this idea that I had during COVID, like towards the end of like 2020. I was like, oh, I want to do a story about what's going on with COVID, like because at the time it was crazy. We didn't really know what was going on, and I kept reading these articles of people that I never saw because we work for the news, so we see news all the time. And I didn't see some of these articles that I was reading. Some stuff like people with schizophrenia, like they weren't getting their medicine, so there was a lot of people having like mental breakdowns and stuff like that. There was a lot of people with like drug issues, a lot of domestic violence issues, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I decided to kind of tell these stories in an anthology. And at first, it was going to be one short film. It was going to be the short film about a girl who she has a schizophrenia and she's not getting her medicine in time, so she's kind of having this mental breakdown in her apartment, and we kind of see like the background of how she became, like how she got those mental health issues, and it was kind of like her relationship with her mom. So that was the first story that I wrote, and then I was like, oh, I think we should turn this into an anthology. And I ended up asking some of my friends like, hey, do you guys want to be part of this? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I kind of told them all like, just write something that's like quarantine or related to COVID. And yeah, so we ended up coming up with like 4 stories. So yeah, the first one is the woman with schizophrenia. The second one is the couple with it's about these two. It's about a couple being quarantined in a hotel room, and they're kind of like their relationship is kind of crumbling, being together for so long, and they're both sick of COVID. So they're kind of like they're battling the disease and they're battling in their relationship. And then the third one is 1311. That one is about a father who's like with COVID inside the ER, and him and his daughter have like a strange relationship, and it's him kind of just pretty much at like a death's door, and he's dealing with like all the stuff that he hasn't dealt with his daughter or in his past. And then the last one is called Behind Closed Doors, and that one is about a woman that's quarantined with her abusive husband, and she's trying to find a way to kind of escape, because if she stays in quarantine with her husband, he's probably gonna kill her. So
Yeah. Wow. And unfortunately, so I did not get to see any of them. I did buy tickets, and I was driving to UNLV and then got mixed up in the parking lot. It was a mess. And so I missed the first 15 minutes, which was yours, right?
Well, yeah. So the first one and the last one are mine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so we're driving around, and we just ended up going back home. So I can watch that here, right, on this channel?
So it's not out yet. I am hoping to have another screening at the Millennium Fandom Bar. So working on that. So hopefully either January or February it's going to screen one more time. And then I'm working on getting it on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's it's in process.
That way, people can pay to see it instead of just watch it for free here.
Or like Tubi.
Okay.
If I can get it on Tubi, then people can watch it for free. They just got to watch commercials.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's very cool. So what inspires you? I mean, okay, so the COVID story, you kind of talked about that. But what about like some of the other things you've done? Table for One. I'm just curious.
Dinner for One, yeah. So for Dinner for One, I was just kind of practicing my writing skills. I was just kind of writing dialogue. And the story is about 4 couples that are dining out at a restaurant. And they all kind of have like a toxic trait in their relationship. So one couple, the guy's kind of like a drug addict, and it's kind of abusive of his wife or girlfriend. I think it was his wife. Then another couple, one of the person cheated, and the woman still hasn't gotten over it. So there's like, that unresolved thing in the relationship. And then another one is like a young couple, and their relationship's just very like, one of them is very narcissistic, and the other one's very like I can't think of the word. It was like very, like not strong in the relationship. So the woman's kind of like the narcissist that's kind of taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
So, and then the last couple is this guy who it seems that they have the perfect relationship.
Right.
And there's a twist at the end. that happens. I don't know if I should tell the twist.
Oh, well, I mean,
I mean, it's been out for a couple of years. So the twist is that, his wife is actually dead. So we think that she's in the restaurant with him, but the twist is like she's not really there. So he's just been talking to himself the whole time.
Wow.
So the idea for that just started with me, like I said, writing dialogue. And then it was like, well, I wonder if I could just tell the whole story through dialogue, because I couldn't really shoot the stuff that I wanted because, we were locked down.
Yeah.
So we shot that in a restaurant during COVID in the summer of 2020. My friend, he had a restaurant, so we waited till it was closed and we shot overnight. So yeah, everyone was gone. Everyone was wearing masks. We cleaned everything, and then we just shot overnight when no one was there. And yeah, so the story kind of like, you start kind of seeing how people are how the couples are interacting, and then from the dialogue, you're kind of getting a sense of what's wrong with their relationships.
Interesting. And so that was done during COVID, and so your anthology is about being quarantined. So you made something during quarantine, and then you wrote something, a couple years later.
Yeah.
About.
So I actually wrote the 14 days. I wrote two of them in like the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. It just took a couple years to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took us a while to shoot it and edit it, and I had issues with post-production and stuff like that. So that's what took the longest.
So now I know this may be it depends on the people, but it could be a touchy subject. So now so a lot of the themes, right? Relationships, broken relationships. Where do you get inspiration for those stories? Is it a personal thing that's
it's a lot of it's everything. It's personal stuff. It's people that I know. It's people stuff that I've seen. It's my parents, is other people's parents. It's just like taken from that, And then also just, reading stuff. Sometimes I'll read stuff or I'll watch stuff on YouTube and I'll just kind of get inspiration from that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is from like real life scenarios that
you've experienced.
Not experienced, but I've seen or maybe experienced,
Yeah, because I mean, normally that's what they tell you to do, write from what you know, right? So it could pull from experience.
Well, the interesting thing is like the COVID stuff, like I don't know anyone with mental health, but then the stuff that I put in the story, it is personal because like some of the stuff gets inspired from that. Like there's a scene in 14 Days, the first one with the girl's schizophrenic, and the mom is like, she tells the mom that she has COVID, and the mom's like, I'm on my way. I'll bring some medicine. And she's like, no, don't come to the apartment. Like we don't know how contagious this is. That's exactly what happened with my dad. My dad had like previous like medical stuff. And I told him like, hey, I got COVID, so I'm quarantining for 14 days. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go drop off some soup and some tea. And I was like, don't come in the apartment.
Yeah.
Like the exact same thing that happens in the movie is what happened with my dad. And I thought it was so funny. So that's why I wrote it. And like he knocked on the door and I was like, drop it off and then go, and then I opened the door to grab my tea and stuff, and he walks into the apartment. And I was like, bro. So then I like walk away and put a mask on and stuff.
So when you write some of the characters, do you feel like you're some of those characters at all?
Yeah, there's stuff of me in each character that I write. Yeah, like that kind of stuff. That's from there. Just I guess stuff from like maybe from my childhood that I take and I remember. Then I'll kind of expand on that or be more creative in the writing of that. It's not necessarily 100% true, but small stuff gets like taken from there.
So we've talked about where you started and what you've been doing. Now, what do you see for your future? What kind of projects do you have, if you can talk about them?
Yeah, no. I for sure want to revisit Feliz Navidad. That's my zombie comedy film. I wrote like a 25-minute script, and now I want to go back to it with stuff like more knowledge that I have and more, I don't know, maybe more ideas that I've had in my head, and try to make it a feature. So that's going to be what I'm going to be working on this year in 2024. And then I got some projects that I'm going to help produce or do stuff for, but they're not necessarily my projects. I'm helping my friend Brian produce or help him shoot behind the scenes and other stuff for his series that he's doing. He's doing like a dramatic series, kind of like True Detective style. So I'm helping him with that. And he wants to do a podcast too, so I'm kind of like help him out with that. And then my friend Allie, she's writing dark comedy. Which, you know, the funny thing about these these short films that I've done, they've been dramatic, but I want to do comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the studio web series was all comedy, and that was like the funnest. I just like, I don't know why I can't, like, it's hard for me to write comedy. I don't know why. But that's what I want to do. So she told me this, like, she pitched me this idea about this dark comedy about two serial killers that have a best friend, and they're kind of, you know, fighting to be the best friend in this person's life. And it's really funny from what, like, she's told me. And I was like, yeah, I'm down to, like, help you with whatever. So I'm going to help her produce it, and maybe I'll do cinematography for it or something.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think there was something else, but I don't remember. But yeah, I think doing that kind of stuff. And then I want to do like more small, just social media, like stuff that I shoot, and music videos. I'm always doing music videos because they're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're easy. It doesn't take me that much to do them. So.
Well, now, so as a commercial producer, you're really going to start doing more of these 30-second stories for businesses. And it's advertising, that's one thing, but they don't have to be cut and dry, you know. It doesn't have to be, do you need blank? Well, call blank and blankety blank blank. Because that's boring, right? And to capture people's attention when you're making a 30-second commercial, you have to grab their attention with something unique and memorable, but not so unique that you can't remember what the product was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commercials like that out there, but there's a lot of really creative ones that you remember the product because the commercial was so moving. Mm-hmm. Whether it be it tugs at your heartstrings, or it's just so funny that it's like, oh, I never would have thought of that, but yeah, that's great. So that's going to be kind of your future moving forward from here, because now we're going to be working together making commercials. So any thoughts about that?
No, I'm ready. I'm excited. I know you're going to be gone for a week for Christmas. So it's going to be on me to kind of take I guess charge or whatever. But no, I'm excited. I'm ready to do it. I think that, you know, we already started on one, kind of throwing ideas for that Cajun restaurant. So I can kind of see, I mean, it's I guess it's just being creative, but also kind of seeing what the client wants. You know what I mean? It's always about the client when it comes to like advertising and being in business, you know.
Yeah, and it's just like making a movie where maybe, you know, the client is a producer, and then you're going to be the director, or you're hired to be the cinematographer, and you kind of go with their vision, you know, because it's not yours per se, but it is yours at the same time, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I hope
it's going to be fun
for you. Doing that.
And I'm also glad to be a little bit detached from news, since I've been in news for a little while.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm still kind of there, you know, right now, but it's going to be nice to just do outside stuff. And it's like, oh, news.
Yeah. And, you know, that was always my thing. I've been in commercials for many years, and I've worked in television stations that do news. And I was like, I could never see myself promoting the TV station day in and day out, because the stories, I mean, that you have to cover, it's death, destruction. There's some feel good ones in there, but it's pretty much the same thing every day, just, you know, different people, different, you know, scenarios. But it can either break you because you're like, oh my gosh, you know, this world is just going to, you know.
It was worse when I was a news editor, because we would see everything, like all the raw footage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like every day it was the same shit. It's always someone getting shot. It's always someone in a car accident or whatever.
And you can only be so creative in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
Commercials, you'll find it's a little more creative, where, some clients, they have no idea what they want to do. And they say, you're the expert, you tell me. And then that's when you're like, yes, you know, and that's when I can really work my creative juices and come up with something that I feel that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And so I hope, you know, there'll be a lot of opportunities like that for you.
For sure.
And I'll be your mentor in that sense, as long as I don't go anywhere.
No, and I'm excited to make commercials. I mean, I've done some here and there for like smaller businesses, and like internet ads and stuff like that. But yeah. It's going to be good. And, you know, the filmmaking stuff continues. The podcast continues. So, always doing something.
Well, very cool. Well, Angel, thank you for being on your show.
Thanks for interviewing me, Gene. Don't Don't forget to subscribe. I'm gonna leave well, if you guys are following the YouTube channel, my short films are here, music videos are here. So see you next time.
And what about the merch? Can we buy the hats?
Coming soon.
Oh,
so,
there you go. Like your hat that you got on.
Yeah,
there.
film goals right here. Coming soon. Yeah. So, all right. See you guys later. Peace.